All right, what is up, YouTube? So we are back here again with part 2 of this installation guide for this Remnant Performance Turbo Kit on a Genesis Coupe 3.8. Where we last left off was pretty much me taking out the headers, put on the stock ones now. So there are a few things we have to do before starting to put on the turbo parts. So the first thing I'm going to recommend you guys do is the AC line that we talked about earlier. I went ahead and put that on already. The reason being is because I have all this space right here right now. So it's best if I do it now rather than later. So do that if you have to take out the headers. If you don't take out the headers, then I mean, by all means, I would still recommend doing it, because by the time you put the intercooler piping and everything in here, it's gonna be kind of a cramped up situation over here. So definitely do it when you get a chance if you're pulling out the headers on the coolant pipe. I do want to note that it is going to be a very close fit to this alternator belt. What I was told was that you can actually bend this pipe down just a little bit, like so, just to get it out of the way so we can clear it. That little bend is not going to do anything or harm the pipe. So pretty much this is what that AC line is going to look like once it's installed. See how it has a little bend right here? It's totally fine, just as long as it clears the pulley. That's all that matters. The next thing I want to point out is for you automatic guys, if you're an automatic, you will have to do this part first, or at least I recommend it instead before you put on all the exhaust parts. So for you automatic guys, you guys need a automatic transmission cooler, the front mount cooler. The reason being is because the automatic lines will be touching the exhaust parts. So you need to cut those OEM automatic transmission fluid lines and pretty much use the kit that Remnant Performance has for sale, and you're gonna route those lines all the way to the front. So I know you guys don't see it on the 6-speed transmission, but along right here there's gonna be two transmission lines that go straight forward this way. You guys are gonna need to cut those two lines, get your automatic transmission cooler kit, and pretty much plug them in right here, and you're gonna face them up. You see how like there's like a little gap right here in the engine bay? You're gonna route your lines up that way. Once you have your lines up here, you're pretty much going to route them all the way across the engine, through here, through your headlight, to the corner, all the way to right here where your automatic transmission cooler kit would sit at. So that's what you guys would do if you're automatic. I'll post up some pictures for you guys so you can see it and visualize it. Because again, I am doing this on a 6-speed and not automatic, so it's a little bit different. But I do want to note that to you guys. All right, so now we're going to start grabbing some parts from the turbo kit. So the first part we're going to grab is this U-pipe right here. We're going to grab this and some gaskets and some bolts. So these are the gaskets you're gonna be grabbing. You just need one for now, but if you want to take the whole bag with you, that's cool too. All right guys, and we got our U-pipe installed. So this is how it's gonna look like. Now I didn't tie down the bolts all the way. I'm still pretty much mocking everything up. So don't tie down anything just yet. You just wanna make sure everything is just tying down to where you can move it, have some adjustability with it. Because once we're done lining everything up, then we can go ahead and tie everything down. Don't forget to plug in your O2 sensors, guys. This will be a good time to do so. So up there we got our primary, of course. Down here, we're gonna have our secondary right there. If you have an AFR gauge, if it's on this side, you're gonna have to relocate it to this side, because you're gonna wanna have to get the AFR readings from the turbo downpipe side now. So the next thing we're gonna be grabbing is now this pipe. This pipe is very important. This is pretty much where your turbo's gonna connect to. So we're gonna get this pipe, drop it down on this side over here. Grab another gasket, because we need another gasket over here. All right, and we're gonna be grabbing one of these V-band clamps. All right guys, so we're underneath the car again. This is how we're gonna have this piece right here actually go up to the engine bay. So as you can see, it's going under the header, and we're just simply going to push it up. And what you're gonna do your best to line it up with is this right here. So this is gonna connect to the header, of course, and this V-band right here is gonna connect to that V-band, and then that's where the V-band clamp comes into play. So let's go ahead and push this up. All right guys, and this is what it's gonna look like. So whenever you do the V-band, make sure you don't want to tie it all the way down, just get it really snugged up to where everything's lined up nice and evenly. So this is how it's gonna look like when it's all together. I'll show you guys all the different angles so you guys can see how this is all working out. What we can do next is pretty much put on our wastegate. And this is really easy. Again, though, you are gonna want to leave this loose. You just gonna want to tighten it up and leave it there in place until all the other exhaust parts are put on. So here's our wastegate. So we're not gonna need these springs because this wastegate comes with a 6-pound spring in here to begin with. So there should be plenty of spring to get us up to 12, 13 pounds. Theoretically, if you have a 6-pound spring in here, then if you have a boost controller, then you can bring that 6-pound spring and turn it into a 12-pound. Basically what the 3-port boost controllers do. If you have a 4-port, you can actually turn it into an 18-pound spring. So like I said, we're not gonna need these springs unless they're gonna be running like 20 pounds of boost. So we're not gonna be using these springs for a while until the customer gets their engine built. However, we are gonna need these guys and we're gonna need these guys. All right, guys, so you have 2 clamps. One's gonna be a small one, the other one's gonna be a slightly bigger one. This dump tube is gonna connect to the wastegate like this. And then this part of the wastegate is gonna connect to the exhaust part underneath the car that I'll show you in a sec. So let's go ahead and get this mounted real quick and we'll go on to our next step. All right, and this is what the wastegate looks like installed on this pipe right here. As you can see, there's a clamp that holds it on right there, and then the clamp that holds on the screamer pipe. All right, guys, so now we're up here and we're pretty much almost ready to mount the turbo. There is a few things I want to note that you're going to need on this part. So the first thing, you're going to need a pry bar, a big pry bar. The reason being is because you're going to have to wedge it in between this exhaust pipe right here, and see how I'm flexing it. If you don't flex it like that, you're not going to get that coupler on, or this V-band right here. So you need to be able to have a pry bar to move the engine just a little bit to get this V-band on. Without that, you can't pretty much get this V-band on. So once you guys get that clamp on, we're going to come over here, grab this guy right here, and this is pretty much going to be the piece that connects the turbo to the actual exhaust pipe right here that connects both of the headers. So basically it's going to go like this. So I'm going to put that on, and then we'll go on to our next step. Also, guys, for this part, I do want to make a note to you guys that we are going to have to take this off. So this is held in by a 10mm right here. Once this 10mm is out, you can go ahead and take this guy off, just like so. Put this to the side, and then down here, you're going to have your power steering one as well. Disconnect this guy, like so. And now the only thing that's holding it on is just pretty much this bracket piece right here. So we're going to take this 10mm off, and then we're pretty much going to put this to the side for now. And just like that, all this wiring is pretty much out of the way. So now this is pretty much ready for the turbo to slap on. Make sure when you do this though, that this guy is tightened up to where you can still swivel it just a little bit by applying pressure, because you're gonna need to swivel it to apply pressure, but then you're also gonna want it to stay still because you don't want to drop the turbo when you're installing it. I'm gonna go ahead and face this upwards more, and then I'm gonna go get the turbo and put it on. I'm also gonna record how I'm doing it so you guys can see as well. So I was pretty much checking what's left to do on the turbo kit, and I totally forgot that we still have to do our power steering lines before we even throw on the turbo. So I went and took out that guy so I can get more access down here. So we're gonna go ahead and get this guy, which is gonna be a 36-inch 5/8 hose. So we're gonna grab this guy, and we're gonna put it on this barb right here for the power steering pump. And you're also gonna get the 36-inch 1/2-inch hose right here as well. This one's gonna go to the other line right here. So big one there, small one here. Pretty much ran my hoses already, as you can see. I did have an issue with this guy. I wasn't comfortable in the way how it actually ran. So I went ahead and put some of the heat sheathing around it. It should be fine for now. I do it on all of my turbo installs for the 3.8. It usually holds up pretty well. Let's go ahead and go on to finally mounting the turbo.